clouds, bouncing up the 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 clouds. Dancing on the clouds, waiting for your heart check. Got to let the beat get under your skin. I think I'm an angel.
Hey, welcome to Life Success. I'm your host, Laurie, and we're going to have an awesome chat. How awesome is that? So we're going to have a chat about conditioning of the mind. Part of the reason some of us fail to take control lies in our individual conditioning. So we're going to have a talk about that in our podcast today. So, what is conditioning? Conditioning is actually within our minds how we perceive things, how we see things, and of course in individual conditioning it can be quite challenging. Many of us have been conditioned to accept less than we can have or be less than we can be, and the point is we made a story, and this is quite a challenging story. And of course, we may be similar to probably a scenario of where elephants are chained. They are in a position where they can't grow, or they can't do anything, they can't move, and they're conditioned to understand that they can't do anything for themselves. So this is where the intelligent part is the hardest part ever. So these elephants stay in this position for a long time, and they're conditioned to understand that they can't move about. So young elephants are chained by the leg, immovable stakes, for several weeks and struggle for their freedom. But little by little, over a period of time of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, the elephants are conditioned to believe that they can't move freely. This is quite often happens mostly in circuses and sometimes overseas, where they're in, like, maybe say for example Thailand, or a country that does this to elephants, and it's just animal cruelty. So, but they are conditioned to believe that they can't do what they want to do. They are tied by the right rear leg, and the moment this conditioning takes hold of them, you can tie them with a string and they won't move. The elephants are at the circus, and they didn't even have a right to roam around because they believed they couldn't. And so in their minds, weren't strong enough to chain or rope and let go of that. They weren't strong enough to actually change their conditioning. So, but we're not elephants, but however, it's just an example of how we could think and behave. But in many ways, we've been conditioned to believe in certain things about ourselves and our environment, and we need to erase these two effects of this conditioning from our lives if we want to control and inner peace. These two effects are illustrated by the following strategies, and of course the events are we can't control, but we believe we can, or we waste time complaining about everything, and we trying to control or manipulate the situation, or our spouse or our family members. And I can totally understand that part because I've been through that, and I know more about how it affects a person. And when you're around toxic people, they are very difficult to be around. So what we condition our minds to, we need to be careful how we think and feel, because what we think and feel affects our thoughts and opinions about our world around us, our bubble. And once that bubble is burst, you struggle to control it, right? So many people, for example, feel they are locked into careers and they really don't like. And in reality, usually this self-imposed bondage. Some events are literally beyond our capacity to control, but for some reason we get it in our heads that we can control them. When I asked in recent scenario with some client, for example, something we can't control, the person basically struggled with a family member who is so toxic, and they get dragged into drama and they struggle to let go of it and so on. And this is quite common and it is very challenging. So you need to change how you think and feel about it and try and be as strong as possible within having that inner power, your authentic power. And this is quite important to have. And I know from my own experience how challenging it is. So these difficult bondage that creates this big ball and it becomes bigger and bigger, and then boom, it becomes an explosion. It makes us explode and we can't actually control it or find something that's going to help us. So some events are literally difficult to control. And of course, if you try to control them, you're probably going to end up in jail anyway. And that's quite challenging and horrible experience, but it is challenging when you try to control the situation with a toxic person. You struggle to make them see their ways. You either have to cut all contacts or walk away and find something else to do. If you are there and you can't get out of it, this is where headphones come into it, and a lot of people do that to shut off quite easily and ignore the dramas that's going around you. But for some people who have been traumatized by previous experience, it triggers their emotions and it triggers them mentally. It can be challenging, and this is where therapy is needed for some people. I had to go through therapy myself, and this is why I'm a life coach now, because I learned a lot of things along my travels in my journey, and it took me over 20 years to get where I am now. And I want to teach you guys the tools. So one man, one person, one human being can be an influence on their behavior, but you can't control them. What about children? They can be toxic too. We may think we can control, and they are under control, or children may think they're in control of the situation, and they're very manipulative if they don't have that control. And that's quite challenging too for most parents. So we may think that they're under control, but during the growing years, because as babies they start to out being under almost total control and when they're born. However, we can control a great deal, but passing day through the march of crawl and all that drama, you're going to face these challenges, and especially when they're teenagers. In the long run, we can't control even our own children or even other people. So we have to find a way to deal with our conditioning mind. So, emotionally we believe we can't, and of course there's a way of doing it. And I believe you can. It's all to do with your mind, and I think you need to start finding a way to do it and confront it. So, it just takes time, effort, and finding something that works, okay? So our self-esteem, it's like a circle. Self-esteem, event control, and productivity. Can we control it, or can we deal with it? So there is ways around it. So, it's like a big circle. So you need to rate what is it that you have control over and what you don't have control over, and find a solution to it. And if you feel like you can't control, then you need to find a solution, a plan, And that plan is quite an important part of it. And when we do, it helps our self-esteem overall, when we do try and find something that's going to help us. So I do find that quite intriguing when we find a plan, when these big waves come and you feel like you can't control the situation and you feel like these toxic people are driving you crazy. This is when we actually find a plan, find something that's going to help us to stay away, do something productive, and that's going to channel your mind to the right direction. Now, conditioning of the mind is where we actually, how we think, how we believe about ourselves, how we believe about the situation around us. And this is where CBT is needed. And of course, the tapping solutions, which I've been investigating more about. I'm very fascinated about the tapping solutions. So it's very interesting therapy, and I would highly recommend it for you guys to try it out and investigate more about that. There is a book out there about the tapping solutions. So I will have to find out more detail about the book, and I will do a podcast about that. But however, for me right now, is about how we manage our life, finding strategies to deal with our difficulties and finding inner peace. And I want that for you guys. So I hope this helps you guys to overcome these battles of toxic people and handle these difficulties. I truly hope you have an awesome day, and thank you for joining me. So have an awesome, fantastic day, and we'll see you again soon, or talk to you soon.
Dancing on the clouds, waiting for your heart check. Got to let the beat get under your skin.